In 2026, football will witness something it has never seen before. Not one host nation, not two, but three countries sharing a single World Cup. For the first time in history, 48 teams will compete instead of 32. A tournament stretched across an entire continent. More matches, more money, more fans. At least that's what FIFA wants you to believe. Because behind the celebration lies a growing controversy that has divided players, coaches, environmental groups, economists, and football fans around the world.
Is the 2026 World Cup the future of football? Or is it the moment football's biggest tournament stopped being about the game and became primarily about business? This is the story of the most controversial World Cup ever. And by the end, you'll understand why millions of fans are asking one question. Is FIFA helping football grow, or simply making more money? Introduction. For decades, the FIFA World Cup followed a familiar formula. 32 nations, 64 matches, 1 month of football that captivated the planet. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. The format created legendary moments. The drama of group stage eliminations, the tension of knockout football, the feeling that every match mattered. Then, everything changed.
In 2017, FIFA officially approved one of the biggest transformations in football history. The World Cup would expand from 32 teams to 48. The decision was championed by FIFA President Gianni Infantino, who argued that football's biggest tournament should be more inclusive and represent more nations. Supporters called it a historic opportunity. Critics called it a cash grab. And nearly a decade later, the debate has only become louder. Because the 2026 World Cup isn't just bigger, it's fundamentally different. And that difference could reshape football forever. To understand the controversy, we first need to understand why FIFA made the change. Officially, the reasoning sounds noble. More countries, more representation, more opportunity.
For years, nations from Africa, Asia, North America, and Oceania argued that World Cup qualification heavily favoured Europe and South America. In 2022, Italy, one of football's traditional giants, missed the World Cup. Meanwhile, dozens of smaller footballing nations never realistically had a chance to qualify. FIFA claimed expansion would solve that problem. Under the new format, Africa receives significantly more places, Asia gains additional slots, North America benefits, even Oceania secures a guaranteed qualification spot. For developing football nations, this is huge. Imagine representing your country at a World Cup for the first time. Imagine the investment, attention, and inspiration it could bring to young players. Supporters argue that football cannot truly be a global game if most of the world remains locked out of its biggest tournament. And on the surface, that argument is difficult to reject. But critics quickly noticed something else. Every additional team means more matches. More matches mean more broadcasting rights, more sponsorship opportunities, more ticket sales, and that means more revenue. A lot more revenue. Suddenly, the debate wasn't only about inclusion, it was about money. And the numbers are staggering. Football is no longer just a sport. It's one of the largest entertainment industries on Earth. The World Cup attracts billions of viewers. Sponsors pay enormous sums for exposure. Television networks fight for broadcasting rights. Every additional match creates another opportunity to sell advertising, another opportunity to sell tickets, another opportunity to generate profit. The expansion to 48 teams increases the total number of matches dramatically. Instead of 64 matches, the 2026 tournament will feature 104.
That's 40 additional games, 40 more products to sell, 40 more opportunities to monetize football's biggest event. Supporters see financial growth as necessary.
More revenue can fund youth development, infrastructure projects, and football programs around the world. Critics, suddenly, the debate wasn't only about inclusion, it was about money. And the numbers are staggering. Football is no longer just a sport, it's one of the largest entertainment industries on Earth. The World Cup attracts billions of viewers. Sponsors pay enormous sums for exposure. Television networks fight for broadcasting rights. Every additional match creates another opportunity to sell advertising, another opportunity to sell tickets, another opportunity to generate profit. The expansion to 48 teams increases the total number of matches dramatically. Instead of 64 matches, the 2026 tournament will feature 104. That's 40 additional games, 40 more products to sell, 40 more opportunities to monetize football's biggest event.
Supporters see financial growth as necessary. More revenue can fund youth development, infrastructure projects, and football programs around the world. Critics, however, see something very different. They argue that FIFA is packaging expansion as a mission of inclusion, while simultaneously creating one of the most lucrative tournaments in sports history. And that's where the controversy begins to intensify. Because if revenue is driving the decision, what happens to the quality of football itself? This may be the most common criticism of the new format. The World Cup has traditionally represented the highest level of international football. Every team earned its place, every match carried significance. But with 48 teams, some experts fear that qualification standards will inevitably drop. More nations qualify, which means weaker teams qualify too. Supporters argue that's unfair. After all, many nations improve only when given opportunities. Nobody expected Morocco to reach the semi-finals in 2022. Nobody predicted South Korea's run in 2002. Football constantly produces surprises. Yet critics point to another concern: mismatches, large scorelines, less competitive group stage matches. If elite teams regularly face opponents with vastly lower rankings, could some matches become predictable? Could the tournament become longer without becoming better?
These concerns may sound hypothetical, but they're tied to another issue that's impossible to ignore: the players themselves. Modern football players are exhausted. Elite footballers already play an extraordinary number of matches every year. Domestic leagues, domestic cups, continental competitions, international qualifiers, Nations League fixtures, Club World Cups, friendly matches, and now an expanded World Cup. Players' unions have repeatedly warned about fixture congestion. Sports scientists increasingly discuss injury risk, fatigue, and burnout. Managers complain that players are being pushed beyond sustainable limits. Some stars now play more than 60 matches in a single season. Adding more World Cup matches may seem insignificant in isolation,
But football's calendar is already packed. Critics argue that the sport is reaching a breaking point, and if player welfare is sacrificed for additional revenue, what does that say about football's priorities? Yet the controversy extends far beyond the players, because the hosts themselves have become part of the story. The United States, Canada, Mexico. Together, they form the largest hosting partnership in World Cup history. At first glance, the arrangement appears logical. Modern stadiums, massive populations, strong infrastructure. But football's calendar is already packed. Critics argue that the sport is reaching a breaking point, and if player welfare is sacrificed for additional revenue, what does that say about football's priorities? Yet the controversy extends far beyond the players, because the hosts themselves have become part of the story.
The United States, Canada, Mexico. Together, they form the largest hosting partnership in World Cup history. At first glance, the arrangement appears logical. Modern stadiums, massive populations, strong infrastructure.
But geography tells a different story.
North America is enormous. Fans could potentially travel thousands of kilometers between matches. Teams may face exhausting travel schedules. Media organizations face increased logistical challenges. And supporters, especially those traveling internationally, may face enormous costs. A fan attending matches across multiple cities could spend far more than during previous tournaments. Flights, hotels, transportation, food, tickets. The total bill could become overwhelming. And that raises a troubling question. Is the World Cup becoming an event only the wealthy can fully experience? Then comes another criticism: the environment. FIFA has promoted sustainability initiatives for years, yet environmental groups have questioned how sustainable a continent-wide tournament can truly be. Think about the scale: millions of spectators, hundreds of flights, thousands of media personnel, dozens of cities spread across vast distances. Even with existing stadiums reducing construction needs, transportation remains a major concern. Every flight carries a carbon cost. Every journey contributes to emissions. Supporters argue that using existing infrastructure is environmentally smarter than building entirely new stadiums. Critics counter that unprecedented travel distances could offset many of those benefits. And as climate concerns become increasingly important, this debate is unlikely to disappear. Because environmental impact is no longer a side issue. For many fans, it's central to the future of global sporting events.
Perhaps the most important voices belong to the fans themselves, and fan opinion is deeply divided. Some celebrate the expansion. More countries means more dreams, more stories, more representation, more opportunities for underdogs. Others fear dilution. They worry that exclusivity created the tournament's prestige, that qualification should remain difficult, that bigger does not automatically mean better. On social media, debates rage constantly. One side sees progress, the other sees commercialization. And that divide perfectly captures the larger question surrounding World Cup 2026. What exactly is football trying to become?
The 2026 World Cup will break records. The most teams, the most matches, one of the largest audiences in sporting history. It could inspire new footballing nations, create unforgettable moments, and expand the game's global reach. Or it could become a symbol of a sport increasingly driven by commercial interests. The truth is that nobody knows yet, because World Cup 2026 isn't simply another tournament, it's an experiment that could define football's future for generations. If it succeeds, expanded World Cups may become the new normal. If it fails, historians may look back at 2026 as the moment football changed course. And perhaps that's why this World Cup feels different. Because we're not just watching a tournament, we're watching a battle over the future of the world's most popular sport. And when the final whistle blows in 2026, one question will remain. Was this expansion about growing football or growing FIFA?